She lent her last $10 to a stranger at the train station, not knowing he was Keanu Reeves. In the fog-choked gloom of Port Haven's train station, where the sea's bitter breath mingled with the rust of forgotten rails, Emily Harper clutched her last $10 bill like a lifeline. She was a woman on the edge, jobless, nearly broke, and banking everything on a train ride to a make-or-break interview when a stranger stumbled into her path, shivering and desperate, begging for the very money she couldn't spare. Little did she know that scruffy figure was Keanu Reeves, a man hiding a fortune behind his rain-soaked plea, and her impulsive act of kindness would plunge her into a storm of loss, danger, and redemption she never saw coming. Emily's breath hitched as she studied the man. His jacket was thin, soaked through, and his dark hair clung to his forehead in wet clumps. A scruffy beard framed his face, but it was his eyes, blue, weary, almost pleading, that held her. She shifted her weight, the train ticket crinkling in her other hand. "Excuse me," he said, voice low and shaky. "I hate to ask, but my wallet's gone. Stolen. I just need $10 to get home. I'll pay you back, I swear." He shivered again, hands stuffed deep in his pockets. Her stomach twisted. That $10 was all she had left after the ticket, her plan for a cheap meal to keep her going through the day. She'd been counting on the interview at a small shipping office in Crestwood, 40 miles up the coast. It wasn't much, just a clerical gig, but it was something. Maybe enough to keep her from losing the tiny room she rented above a fish market. She looked at him again, searching for a lie in his face. "How do I know you're not scamming me?" she asked, voice sharper than she meant. "You don't," he admitted, meeting her gaze. "I wouldn't trust myself either looking like this. But I'm stuck. I've asked others, they just walk away, please." His honesty disarmed her. No smooth talk, no guilt trip, just a quiet, raw need. She glanced at the schedule board. Her train was minutes away. She could say no, board it, and keep her plan intact. But something stopped her. A flicker of memory, her mom's voice from years ago. "Help when you can, Em. It's what keeps us human." Her mom was gone now, taken by cancer 3 years back, and Emily had been scraping by ever since. That $10 was her buffer, her safety. Giving it away was reckless, stupid even. Yet her hand moved, almost on its own, dipping into her coat pocket. The bill felt fragile between her fingers, worn and soft from too many hands. She held it out, hesitating. "I don't know why I'm doing this," she muttered, half to herself. He blinked, like he couldn't believe it either, then reached for it slowly, as if scared she'd snatch it back. "Thank you," he said, voice cracking. "I mean it. I'll pay you back. What's your name?" "Emily," she said, barely audible. "Just get home safe, okay?" "I'm Keanu," he replied, clutching the bill. "I won't forget this." Before she could say more, the rumble of her train cut through the air. He nodded quickly, then turned, disappearing into the thinning fog toward the ticket booth. Emily stood there, heart pounding, a mix of regret and relief washing over her. She'd just given away her last dollar to a stranger named Keanu. What the hell was she thinking? She shook her head and hurried to her platform, boarding just as the doors hissed shut. Sinking into a seat, she stared out at the blurred world racing by. No food today, she thought. She'd have to tough it out. But beneath the gnawing worry, a small, stubborn warmth flickered. Maybe she'd done something good, something her mom would have smiled at. She didn't know Keanu's story, didn't know he was Keanu Reeves, a man who'd walked away from Hollywood's glitz years ago to build something real, something hidden behind that drenched, desperate exterior. She didn't know that $10 would come back to her in ways she couldn't imagine. The train rattled on, carrying her toward Crestwood and the interview she prayed would change her luck. She pulled her coat tighter, ignoring the empty ache in her stomach. She'd make it work. She always had. But as the miles stretched out, doubt crept in. What if the job fell through? What if she'd just thrown away her last chance at stability for a stranger who'd already forgotten her face? She leaned her head against the cool glass, replaying his eyes, his voice. "I'll pay you back." Sure, she thought bitterly. People say a lot of things. Back at the station, Keanu stood under the awning, the $10 bill still in his hand. He hadn't bought a ticket, not yet. He watched her train pull away, a faint smile tugging at his lips. He wasn't stranded, not really. The stolen wallet story was a half-truth. a test he'd been running for weeks, part of a quiet mission he'd kept from the world. He'd seen the mistrust, the cold shoulders, the way people turned from him in his borrowed rags. But Emily, she'd stopped. She'd given, and that, he thought, was worth more than she'd ever know. He slipped the bill into his pocket, a keepsake now, and made a promise to himself he'd find her again. Emily didn't see it coming, not the crash that awaited her, not the storm that would test her, not the man who'd turn that $10 into a tidal wave of change, but it had already begun, rolling toward her like the sea itself. The train jolted to a stop in Crestwood, and Emily stepped onto the platform, her stomach growling louder than the engine's hum. She'd made it, but she was late. 15 minutes past the interview time. The shipping office was a gray brick building 3 blocks away, and she ran, her worn sneakers slapping wet pavement. She burst through the door, breathless, hair sticking to her face. The receptionist, a woman with tight lips and a clipboard, barely looked up. "You're late," she said. "Mr. Daniels already left for another meeting." "Please," Emily begged, voice trembling. "I took the train. I didn't have change for the bus. Can I wait? I'll explain everything." The woman sighed, shaking her head. "He's gone. Call to reschedule." Emily's chest tightened. She nodded, muttering a thanks, before stumbling back outside. The wind hit her like a slap, and she stood there, staring at the street, feeling the weight of that $10 she'd given away sink deeper. No job, no money, nothing. She trudged back to Port Haven that afternoon, the train ride a blur of hunger and shame. By the time she reached her room above the fish market, the landlord, Mr. Grayson, was waiting. His arms were crossed, his face hard. "Rent's due, Emily. 3 days late already." She swallowed. "I know. I'm trying. Just give me till Friday, I'll figure something out." He frowned. "You said that last week. I've got a guy ready to take the room tomorrow. Pack up." She didn't argue. What could she say? She stuffed her clothes, a cracked phone with no service, and a faded photo of her mom into her backpack. Her throat burned, but she held the tears back. Not here. That night, she wandered Port Haven's streets, the sea's salty breath stinging her eyes. She found a bench near the pier, the metal cold against her legs. She hugged her backpack, staring at the dark waves crashing below. She'd slept here before, back when her mom first got sick and the hospital bills ate everything. She thought those days were behind her. Now here she was again, alone, invisible, the kindness she'd shown a stranger mocking her in the silence. The next day she tried job hunting. A cafe turned her away, no address, no phone, no chance. A grocery store laughed when she asked about applications. She walked until her feet ached, ending up at a shelter on Bay Street. The woman at the desk, Tara, had kind eyes but a tired voice. "We're full tonight. Try tomorrow." Emily nodded, too numb to push. She shuffled back to the pier, curling up on the same bench. The stars stared down, cold and distant, as sleep came in fits, broken by the wind and her growling stomach. Days bled together. Hunger, rejection, the slow unraveling of hope. Then she met Vince. He was older, rough around the edges, with a scar slicing his left eyebrow. He found her at the bench one rainy evening, offering a sandwich from a greasy paper bag. "You look like you need this," he said, sitting too close. She took it, hands shaking, and ate fast, the bread sticking to her dry throat. "Thanks," she mumbled. He grinned, teeth yellowed. "No problem, stick with me. I'll look out for you." At first, it seemed like luck. Vince knew the streets, where to find food, how to dodge cops. He got her a spot in a run-down warehouse where drifters crashed, trading her a blanket for a cut of anything she scavenged. But the deal soured fast. He started watching her, asking questions, where she'd been, what she'd found. One night he grabbed her arm when she came back empty-handed. "You owe me," he hissed, breath sour with cheap beer. "Start pulling your weight, or you're out." Her heart raced, but she nodded, fear curling tight in her gut. Vince got worse. He'd follow her, demand she beg at the docks, then take half her coins. When she hit $1, he found it, slamming her against the warehouse wall. "Think you're smart?" he snarled, hand on her throat. She froze, eyes wide, tasting blood where her lips split. He let go, laughing, but the threat lingered. She stopped sleeping, watching him in the dark, knowing he wasn't just a bully, he was a predator, waiting for her to break. One night, rain pounding the warehouse roof, she heard him whispering to another guy, Ray, about moving product. She peeked through a crate, saw cash, a bag of pills. Vince caught her staring. "You didn't see that," he growled, stepping close. "Or you'll wish you hadn't." She nodded, heart hammering, but she knew. She was trapped. No money, no home, and now tangled with someone dangerous. She thought of Keanu, that $10, the promise he'd made. Had it been a lie? Had she thrown her life away for nothing? By week's end, she was a shadow, hungry, scared, hollowed out. She sat on the pier, rain soaking her coat, tears finally spilling. She missed her mom's hugs, her laugh, the way she'd made the world feel safe. Now it was just her, Vince's threats, and a city that didn't care. She'd hit bottom, and the fall had shattered her. But even then, a tiny spark flickered. Anger, maybe, or the ghost of her mom's words. "Keep going, Em." She didn't know how, but she wasn't done yet. The rain hadn't stopped in days, and Emily's coat was more water than wool as she huddled on the pier, her backpack a soggy lump beside her. Vince's threat echoed in her head. "You didn't see that, or you'll wish you hadn't." She hadn't gone back to the warehouse since, choosing the open cold over his looming shadow. Her stomach ached, a dull throb that blurred her thoughts. She hadn't eaten since a half-rotten apple she'd found in a dumpster yesterday. Port Haven's lights flickered across the water, mocking her with their warmth. She was invisible here, a ghost in her own life. That morning she wandered to a park near the docks, hoping to scrounge food from picnic leftovers. The grass was slick, the air heavy with salt. She sank onto a bench by a weathered statue of a sailor, knees pulled to her chest. Her hands shook, not just from cold, but from fear. Vince had eyes everywhere. She'd seen Ray watching her yesterday, his stare like a blade. She couldn't keep running, but staying meant worse. Her mom's photo, tucked in her bag, felt like her only anchor. She didn't pull it out, couldn't bear to see those smiling eyes now. Then she heard footsteps, slow, deliberate. She tensed, expecting Ray or worse, but it was an older woman, maybe 70, with a green scarf and a canvas bag slung over her shoulder. Her face was lined but kind, her gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. She stopped a few feet away, studying Emily with quiet eyes. "You look like you're carrying the world," she said softly. Emily flinched, wiping her face. "I'm fine." The woman didn't buy it. She sat on the bench, leaving space, and opened her bag. "I'm Lila. I walk here every morning, always pack extra, just in case." She pulled out a foil-wrapped sandwich and set it between them. "Turkey and cheese. It's yours if you want it." Emily stared, throat tight. She wanted to say no, to keep her pride, but hunger won. She took it, hands trembling as she unwrapped it. The first bite hit like a memory, her mom making sandwiches on Sunday afternoons. Tears stung her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, voice breaking. Lila nodded like she understood more than Emily said. "There's a community center on Coral Street," she said after a pause. "They serve meals, but they need hands, people to help out. You look like you could use a place to land." Emily swallowed hard. "Why are you helping me?" Lila smiled faintly. "Because someone helped me once, kept me going. Now it's my turn." The words stuck with Emily as Lila walked away. She finished the sandwich, savoring every bite, then headed to Coral Street. The center was a squat brick building, its sign faded but welcoming, Harbor Hope. Inside it smelled like coffee and fresh bread. A woman in her 50s, with short curls and a no-nonsense apron, greeted her. "Marla, you looking for lunch?" Emily shook her head. "Lila sent me, said you might need help." Marla's face softened. "Lila's got a knack for spotting the good ones. Grab an apron, we'll figure it out." Emily threw herself into the work, chopping carrots, stirring soup, wiping tables. Her hands moved fast, grateful for purpose. The people who came in were like her, worn down but holding on. A man named Joe told her jokes while she ladled stew. A kid, maybe 10, shyly handed her a crumpled drawing of a boat. By the end of the day, her feet throbbed, but her chest felt lighter, like she'd remembered how to breathe. Marla handed her a $10 bill as she left. "It's not much, but you earned it. Come back tomorrow." Emily clutched it, nodding. For the first time in weeks, she felt seen. She kept going back, volunteering daily. The center became her lifeline. Food, warmth, people who said her name like it mattered. She slept at a shelter Marla pointed her to, safer than the streets. But Vince hadn't forgotten her. One evening, as she left Harbor Hope, she saw Ray across the street, leaning against a lamppost, cigarette glowing. That night, in the shelter's dim bunk room, Emily lay awake, Vince's threat looping in her mind. Harbor Hope was her only light. She couldn't let him touch it. But running meant losing everything again. She thought of Lila's sandwich, Marla's trust, even Kiana's promise. "I'll pay you back." Had he meant it? Did it matter? She wasn't the girl who'd given that $10 anymore. She was tougher, angrier, ready to fight for the sliver of hope she'd found. As dawn crept through the window, she made a choice. She'd stay, keep helping, but she'd watch her back. Vince wanted her scared, but she wasn't breaking. Not yet. Somewhere deep, a spark grew, fueled by every smile at the center, every hand she'd fed. She didn't know it, but that spark was about to ignite. Emily woke to the shelter's quiet hum, her bunk creaking as she sat up. Vince's threat clung to her like damp air. "They'll burn that place down, with you in it." She'd stayed at Harbor Hope anyway, pouring soup, scrubbing pots, smiling at Joe and the kid with the boat drawing. Every laugh there felt like defiance, every meal a shield. But she wasn't naive. Vince meant it, and Ray's shadow lingered near the center too often now. She kept the $10 Marla gave her tucked in her sock, her only safety net, and watched the streets like a hunted thing. That Thursday, the lunch rush at Harbor Hope was winding down. Emily wiped tables, humming to drown out her nerves when the door chime rang. She looked up and froze. A man stood there, tall, in a dark coat that didn't fit this weathered part of Port Haven. His hair was neat, his shoes clean, but his eyes, blue, steady, familiar, hit her like a punch. She dropped the rag. "Keanu?" she whispered. He smiled, small and warm. "Emily." Her mind spun. The scruffy stranger from the train station was gone, replaced by this polished figure, like he'd stepped out of another world. He walked toward her, hands in his pockets. "You're a hard person to find," he said, voice softer than she remembered. "I went back to the station the next day, asked around. No one knew you." She blinked, still reeling. "You're here? Why?" He tilted his head. "You gave me your last $10 when I was a mess. I promised I'd pay you back. I meant it." Before she could answer, Marla called from the kitchen. "Emily, you okay out there?" Keanu glanced over, then back at her. "You work here?" "Volunteer," she said, folding her arms. "Keeps me going." He nodded, like he saw more than she said. "I've got something for you. More than $10. Can we talk?" She hesitated, Vince's threat flashing in her mind, but those blue eyes held no danger. "Outside," she said. 5 minutes. They stepped onto Coral Street, the sea breeze sharp. Keanu pulled a crisp $10 bill from his wallet and handed it to her. "Start with this," he said. She took it, fingers brushing his, and laughed. A brittle, disbelieving sound. "You tracked me down for this?" "Not just that," he said, serious now. "I'm Keanu Reeves, not the actor anymore. I walked away years ago, started a foundation, Reeves Renewal. We help people who've hit bottom, people like I pretended to be that day. I was testing how the world treats the invisible. You were the only one who stopped." Her breath caught. Keanu Reeves. The name clicked. Movies, headlines, a life she'd never touched. "You're a millionaire," she said, half accusing, "and I gave you my last $1." He winced. "I didn't plan to take it, just to ask. You changed the script." She stared at the bill in her hand, anger and awe tangling inside her. "I lost everything after that, no job, no home. I'm still picking up the pieces." "I know I can't fix that," he said, stepping closer, "but I can offer you a way up. Work with us. Help run projects for people like you were. You've got heart, Emily. I've seen it." Her chest tightened, hope warring with doubt. Before she could answer, a voice cut through the air. "Well, ain't this sweet? Vince." He sauntered from the alley, Ray at his side, both grinning like wolves. Emily's stomach dropped. "Walk away, Vince," she said, voice steady despite her racing pulse. He ignored her, eyeing Keanu. "Who's this? Your rich boyfriend gonna save the day?" Keanu tensed, but his voice stayed calm. "I'm just talking to her, leave it." Vince laughed, pulling a switchblade from his pocket, flicking it open. "She owes me. Saw too much." "You're in my way now." He lunged at Keanu, blade glinting. Emily shouted, "No!" and shoved Keanu aside. The knife grazed her arm, hot pain searing through. She stumbled, blood soaking her sleeve, but Keanu caught her, then spun, knocking the blade from Vince's hand with a swift, practiced move. Ray charged, fists swinging, but Keanu dodged, landing a hard punch to his jaw. Ray crumpled. Vince snarled, grabbing the knife again, but Emily kicked his shin, desperation fueling her. He howled, staggering. Enough time for Keanu to tackle him, pinning him to the pavement. "Stay down," Keanu growled, twisting Vince's arm. Sirens wailed. Someone from the center must have called. Vince thrashed, spitting curses, but Keanu held firm until cops swarmed in, cuffing him and Ray. Emily sank against the wall, clutching her arm, blood dripping through her fingers. Keanu knelt beside her, ripping his sleeve to tie around the wound. "You're okay," he said, voice tight with worry. "I've got you." She nodded, tears burning her eyes. Not from pain, but relief. The fight had been chaos, her fear exploding into action. Vince was gone, his threats silenced by handcuffs. She looked at Keanu, his face smudged with dirt, eyes fierce with care. "You didn't have to do that," she said. He shook his head. "Neither did you at the station, but you did." Paramedics arrived, checking her arm. It was shallow, no stitches needed. As they wrapped it, Keanu stayed close, a quiet anchor. She'd saved him once with $10. Now, he'd saved her with more than money. The cops hauled Vince away, his glare promising revenge. But she felt it, justice, raw and real, breaking through her darkness. She didn't know what came next, but with Keanu beside her, the spark she'd clung to blazed brighter. Maybe she wasn't lost anymore. Emily sat on the curb outside Harbor Hope, her bandaged arm throbbing under the paramedics' wrap. The sirens had faded, taking Vince and Ray away in cuffs, but her heart still pounded. Keanu crouched beside her, his torn sleeve dangling, his steady presence a lifeline in the chaos. Port Haven's dusk settled around them, the sea whispering against the docks. She looked at him, really looked, and saw more than the stranger she'd helped, or the man who'd fought for her. He was a bridge, connecting her past to something new, something she couldn't yet name. "You didn't have to jump in," he said, brushing dirt from his hands. "That knife could have—" She cut him off. "You didn't have to either. We're even now." He smiled, faint but real, and handed her the $10 bill Vince had knocked loose in the fight. "Not quite. This is yours." She took it, fingers lingering on its edges. That bill, her last dollar, her reckless gift, had circled back blood-stained but unbroken, like her. Marla burst out of the center, apron flapping. "Emily, you okay?" She pulled Emily into a hug, then eyed Keanu. "Who's this?" Emily hesitated, then said, "Keanu, he's a friend." Marla raised an eyebrow, but didn't push. "Cops said they've got Vince on assault, maybe more if they search that warehouse. You're safe now." Safe. The word felt foreign, fragile. Emily nodded, but her mind churned. Vince's glare as he was dragged off, his hissed promise of payback. Justice had won today, but she knew his kind didn't let go easy. Keanu stood, offering his hand. "Let's get you inside. You need food, rest." She took it, his grip warm and sure, and followed him back to Harbor Hope. Marla heated soup, and they sat at a scratched table, the steam curling between them. "Tell me about this foundation," Emily said, spoon in hand. He leaned back, eyes brightening. "Reese Renewal, it's about second chances. We build programs, job training, mobile kitchens, shelters, for people the world forgets. I started it after I left acting, wanted to see what really matters." She listened, the soup warming her from the inside. "And me?" she asked. "What's my part?" He met her gaze. "You've lived it. Hunger, fear, hope. You could help us shape it, maybe lead a project. We'd get you a place to stay, training, start fresh." Her chest tightened. Hope, sharp and sudden, cutting through months of numb survival. "I don't have a degree. Barely a high school diploma." He shrugged. "Doesn't matter, you've got more than most. Guts, heart. I saw it at the station, saw it today. Before she could answer, the door swung open. Lila, the woman from the park, stepped in, scarf loose around her shoulders. Emily blinked. Lila? The older woman smiled, crossing the room. Heard there was trouble, had to check on you. She glanced at Keanu, then back at Emily, a glint in her eye. Looks like you found each other. Emily frowned. You know him? Lila chuckled, patting Keanu's shoulder. He's my nephew. Raised him after his folks passed. Told him about you. The girl with the big heart. The room tilted. You sent me here, Emily said, piecing it together. To harbor hope. Lila nodded. Keanu told me about the $10 girl. Said you changed him. I wanted to see you myself. Saw a fighter, not a quitter. Emily sat back, stunned. That sandwich, that nudge toward Coral Street. It wasn't chance. It was family, weaving her into something bigger. Later, outside, Keanu walked her to the shelter. The stars glittered over Port Haven, the air crisp. I'm staying, she told him. I'll work with you, build something here, these people, this place. We're mine to fight for. He nodded, proud. Then we'll do it together. I've got a new project. A van, Meals on Wheels for the streets. You'd run it. Her eyes widened. Me? You, he said. You know what they need. A year later, Emily stood by her sky blue van, harbor hands, serving stew to a line of faces she knew by name. The program had grown. 3 vans now, a shelter expansion, her name in the paper. Vince got 10 years, drugs, assault, a stash that sank him. Justice stuck. But that night, under the center's string lights, Keanu pulled her aside, a ring in his hand. You gave me faith, he said, voice low. Let me give you forever, she said yes, tears falling, the $10 bill framed now, hanging nearby. As kids laughed and music played, Emily held his hand, her heart full. One act, $10, had rippled out, lifting her, lifting them all. Kindness, she thought, was the real miracle. I believe Emily's story shows us something raw and true. Kindness isn't just a feel-good moment, it's a spark that can ignite lives, even when everything else is falling apart. Maybe you've been like her, stretched thin but still giving. Or maybe you think it's naive to trust a stranger with your last dime. I get both sides. Life's tough, and caution keeps us safe. But there's magic in those small, brave choices. For me, it's proof that hope doesn't need money or power. It needs heart. What do you think? Does kindness pay off, or is it a risk not worth taking? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. Drop a like if this hit home, and subscribe to Soul Stirring Stories for more tales that dig deep. Thank you for being here. Your voice matters, and I can't wait to connect.